I'm not going to waste your time. This is the full guide on how to win any 1v1. And everything I say in this video works both ways, offensively and defensively. So if you understand these ideas, 1v1s will stop feeling random and instead you'll be able to win them in no time. Let's get into it. The first tip I have for you is to always play the objective. Now, what do I mean by that? The biggest mistake in 1v1 situations is trying to force the same play every time, even when it's not working. Winning a 1v1 isn't about hitting specific mechanics, but rather it's about understanding what is the best play in each moment. Sometimes that could be a power shot off of a bounce dribble. Sometimes it could be an air dribble bump. Or sometimes it could even just be a simple 50-50 into the opponent's corner just to steal their boost. So this is what I mean by playing the objective. You need to realize what's going on the field, where you are, where your teammates are, where the opponents are, and then make the decision off that what is the best play. For example, if you're in a 1v1 situation where you have no boost, but your opponent has full boost, probably going for a flick that's going to get no power and not going to be a goal is a bad play. So instead, the objective would be to get boost. So then a 50-50 to the corner in a way where you beat the opponent to the boost would be the best play, and so on and so forth. The objective of each 1v1 isn't always to score instantly. Sometimes it definitely is, but it's not always the case. Instead, it's to win the situation overall. And in my opinion, the best way to understand and get better at realizing what the actual objective is in a situation is to watch players who are better than you. Watch players who are a bit higher ranked than you, or even watch pro players play 2s or 1s. Because in these higher level lobbies, you're going to see what the better players do. And based off of that, you're going to be able to adjust your own gameplay and pick up on these kinds of patterns. The second tip I have for you is to force a commitment, because you don't win 1v1s by always flicking early. Instead, you win 1v1s by making the defender make the first move. Sometimes just slow down, threaten multiple options, and then your opponents, most of the time, will jump, turn, panic, whatever it might be. Because the moment they commit, your play has already won. And it's the same way defensively. If you don't have to commit, don't. Because most of the time, in most ranks, your opponents are actually going to be the ones to make the first mistake. The third tip I have for you is to always stare at your opponent, not just the ball. And this is super important, both on offense and defense, because the person who knows what their opponent is doing versus the person who doesn't know what their opponent is doing is always going to win. The reason this is so important is because you need to realize when your opponent is challenging you, when they're fake challenging you, when they're just sitting back on backboard or in net. Always being aware of where your opponent is will make it 10 times easier for you to again understand what the objective is and then to realize and capitalize on that objective. The next tip I have for you is to not pre-plan your plays too much. And what I mean by that is don't always decide before the plays even happened on what you're going to do. Because Rocket League is such a diverse game that the play you're thinking of making in a couple of seconds will be the worst play you could possibly make. And that's entirely possible. Instead, what you need to do is to keep your creativity and always keep the possibilities open. Now, obviously, you can have a little plan on what you might want to do, but inside of this mini plan, you need to have 5 other mini plans. For example, I could think, well, if my opponent pre-jumps me, I'm going to go low. If my opponent insta-challenges, I'm just going to take a low 50. If my opponent just shadows and does nothing, I'm going to go and air dribble bump him. If you have all of the scenarios that are likely to happen thought out and you have a play for them, that's fine. But you can't just have one play where you think, oh well, I'm going to flick it, and then when they pre-jump and they're just floating, then you just flick it anyway and then they get the easiest pre-jump save of their life. You need to not lock yourself into one play too much, and instead just stay unpredictable and do what in the moment feels natural and instinctively the right play. And Lionel Messi even once said that I never think about the play or visualize anything. I do what comes to me at that moment. Instinct. It has always been that way. And this is a clear example of a world-class, obviously football player, not Rocket League player, but it applies the same way. Whatever you do in a game shouldn't be something that you've thought through a million times, but rather it should be your natural instinct and decision making. And the last tip that I have for you is for you to expand your arsenal. Now, what do I mean by that? This is a bit more on the attacking side, but can still partially go for defending. When you're attacking in 1v1s, you need an arsenal. And what an arsenal is basically just a choice of moves and skills that you're good at. The more skills you have, naturally you'd expect that the better you are in 1v1s, right? But that's actually often not the case, because you can be good at hundreds of skills, but in a game, you might freeze up and not actually know which one to go for. You don't need that many skills. Instead, you need to have a couple mechanics that you really like and that you are really, really good at. You don't have to be good at them now, but you have to want to be good at them eventually. And these skills should be what are your main uses. For example, in 1v1s, one should definitely be some dribbling based skill, like flicks, like a specific flick. One should definitely be an aerial mechanic, like an air dribble bump, or a flip reset, or whatever. And a third one can be a bit of a wildcard one, something else you enjoy and you think is very effective in 1v1s. Now, what you do with these three skills, once you've chosen them, is that you just train them an insane amount of times. You train them as much as you possibly can, until you're very, very good at these skills and you can consistently replicate them in real matches. And once you've learned these skills and you've practiced them a long time, like we just mentioned, you have to actually take them into real games. Let's say you practiced the 45-degree flick, a personal favorite of mine. Let's say you got really good at this 45-degree flick. If you now never use it in your ranked games, but instead always just go for the safer front flip flick, for example, then you're never going to start winning these 1v1s. You need to use the mechanic that you learned and that you put the hours into, and actually try it in real ranked games. And I promise you, it will be worth it. You might mess up, that's fine, because that's the only way to actually learn. So just, please, keep going, and use the mechanic in real games as much as you possibly can. So that's how you win any type of 1v1 in Rocket League. If you guys enjoyed, and if you did, consider subscribing to the channel. We're very close to 1,000 subscribers, and every single sub counts a lot and means a lot to me. So, thank you for watching, have a great rest of your day, good luck in your games, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.